5:55. But, and we lost Paul. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes,
Yes.
we'll be reviewing the March financials. Yeah.
Okay.
Teased you with April, but we have March.
Oh, okay. All right. And, a resolution to thank Ashley. I think we need to do that.
That sounded like a motion to me, Daniel.
Yes, motion.
For those new people, Ashley was the board president before Tricia.
Yeah, and she just resigned earlier in the month, so. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Would you like us to send her something to that effect?
Yes.
A letter
please.
saying just
Yeah.
on behalf of the board?
You'd be so flattered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we need to do something for Paul as well. To thank him for his service to us.
Would you like just a letter from on behalf of the board? And I can send it to you to sign it.
All right,
And, or did you want something else? A certificate or of appreciation or anything like that? Honestly, I think he would love a letter and I think that that will be meaningful.
all right.
I don't think he needs a certificate or
I
a
don't
plaque
think
or
he
a thing.
needs a plaque or a, nah, he doesn't. need a plaque.
Okay, great. I'll make sure this.
Okay, yeah.
Lori and I can work on that.
Okay.
Do you want a resolution for that or just note it in the minutes?
Oh,
Let's get them both a certificate to North Country.
Make him drive to get it.
That's right.
that's a kind of a joke because Ashley's business is North Country.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can walk across and milk her cows.
Right.
I think, do you want a resolution?
Yeah, we have a resolution to thank Paul as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
a motion, okay, a second,
I'll second that.
all right, good, thank you, and all in favor?
Aye.
Good, any opposed? Okay, and we've welcomed Alicia and John formally and introduced everyone. The April or the March 24th minutes, we need to approve
I
those
move.
Daniel, on a roll.
on a roll. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. We need to elect a vice president.
I nominate Jessica Tyson. I second.
All right. You're still willing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All in favor of Jessica?
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome to the executive committee.
I will be happy to help you answer any questions and give you some things, but I'm sure Tricia and Lori and Laura, all of us in the room are gonna help you out. Okay, cool.
It's not a big
They're
deal.
I think you're being.
I do
It's a
too.
great learning opportunity for you. It's great. Thank you for doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The 2025 operating guidelines. Everybody had a chance to look at that?
Suffice it to say, there are very few changes. It was just tabled in January when it was last on the agenda.
The biggest change is that we took out the entire section on the lactation room guidelines because they were originally put in there. We needed to have them somewhere, even when it wasn't a policy, in order to be recipients of all of these equipment and things that were given to us through another grant for lactation resources. So now we have an official CCE policy for that. We didn't need 2 pages of instructions in the operating guidelines for that. So
All right.
those were removed. I don't think that we made any other changes.
Okay,
Move to adopt the 2025 operating guidelines.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any further discussion? Okay, so that's done. The financials. Daniel, would you like to say anything?
I would. So I had an interesting, training, what was it now? A couple weeks back, and, I'll be honest, it wasn't as enlightening as I had hoped. However, one of the things that came out of it is that the treasurer is really supposed to be the one who sort of reviews, or at least, I guess, produces the report for the board in some way, or presents the report, I guess we should say. However, we all know as this works.
Yeah, and it's in our financial controls, I think,
Yeah.
that I act as liaison for the treasurer.
Right, so
That's why.
what happens really is you do all the work. And I get to take all the credit, which is great. That's exactly how I like it to be.
They
But-
like your salary.
But what I'll do here, and what we often do, I mean, we do every so often, we sit down, we meet, we talk about the budget. I do this also with, the CCE Executive Director, and so it's not as though I just defer completely, but the reality is that there's two incredibly qualified staff members who are constantly on this, and we sit down periodically to review these things. So in these meetings, during the board meetings, I will simply say anything that may have come out of any of those meetings, but often I will just simply defer and allow you to go through the report.
I think you do much better job presenting it.
Yeah. You, that's not true. You do an incredibly good job. It's very clear. It's written out perfectly.
From my notes.
And in fact, one of the things, that for the new board members that will highlight, the last, this year has been a challenge, because we had grants out there, that were federally funded, or that we were expecting to be funded through federal funding. And there are obviously questions about whether or not they come through. So as a result, partly due to Mark Hale's excellent suggestion, this was produced. And this helps project what funding looks like, what cash on hand, most importantly, would look like if things come through or don't come through, for that matter. What's at risk, what's available, what staffing, what then the potential consequence would be for staffing levels. So thank you for taking that on and producing, again, a really beautiful, concise, chart that we can all, I think, understand relatively well. We all have to do that, but
We
a little bit.
we'll go into it a little bit more.
But you're gonna go
Yeah.
through these things, and I appreciate that, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So I read from my notes because I get anxious, so.
Kevin, you should have all of the stuff in your packet that Laura's referring to, except for that chart. Laura, can you email that to him?
I don't.
Or Laura Lori might be able to do it before we talk about it, because we're not talking about that. Oh, you don't either, got it. Okay, we'll get this to you.
Do you want me to go email it to him now?
No, but why don't you go through, start your report and we'll make sure he gets it, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so first, does anyone have any questions about the financials that they received? Okay, so you should have 3 financial reports in your packet. The board summary for the month ending March 31st, 2025. That's 3 pages. The balance sheet and the statement of operations for the month ending March 31st, 2025. Which is also 3 pages. So I'm required to provide you with the balance sheet and a statement of operations. The summary is used to provide a clearer picture of what's included in those financial statements. The numbers and key financial points reflect what is being reported on the financial statements. It includes additional information from the balance sheet and consolidates the accounts on the statement of operations into the major revenue and expense categories. So let me know when you have those statements and I'll begin reviewing the balance sheet section of the summary report.
Okay,
So the summary reports look like this. The balance sheets look like, balance sheet starts with this. And then the summary reports have a couple of colored lines that are to call out certain details. Alicia and John, you would not have seen those because they weren't done when we talked. But you should have the balance sheet. Statement of operations, which are the ones that we looked at before.
Everyone ready?
yes.
Yes.
So for the balance sheet, the total cash is about 249,300. That does not include the $100,000 CD at Champlain National Bank, which is listed under the current assets, and the two $100,000 CDs at Community Bank that are currently valued at a total of $206,102. These are considered non-current assets. The CD at Champlain National Bank has a 3.5% interest rate and the maturity date of 6/28/25. And the CDs at Community Bank have an interest rate of 4.018 and a maturity date of 7/26/25. So we'll need to start thinking about what we'll be doing with those CDs because maturity dates are coming up. But in total, there's about $6,850 more this year in cash and savings. Total accounts receivables are about $73,750. Those are highlighting gold on the summary. 79% of the receivables are current within 60 days, and the remaining 21% are over 90 days. About 44,000 of the receivables are still due as of today. I have details of what's due, if anybody wants that, or I can just move forward. Anyone want details? Okay. The prepaid expenses, which is highlighted in blue, are about $7,450. About $6,300 is for prepaid insurances. The monthly amounts and remaining number of payments until the renewal are listed on the summary. Anything that's over 12 months' time, the payment is presented. We have to break it out into months. So there's one in there that was for 3 years, the last one on the list, so that's broken out into 36 payments, and there's 35 left for that. And so that is page 1, and moving on to page 2. Total accounts payable are about 44,800, and that includes the Cornell bill.
Pause 1 sec, Laura, for people to just catch up with you. So she's reviewing page 2 of the summary report, which corresponds to the bottom half of the balance sheet. So it's notes and a little bit of detail about the bottom half of the balance sheet.
Thank you.
So total accounts payable are about 44,800, and that includes the Cornell bill of 36,787.19. The Cornell bill is our payables and contracts with Cornell that we pay monthly. The deferred revenues, which are highlighted in blue on the summary, are about 28,000. Most of the deferred revenue is for the Adirondack Harvest Festival, and those funds will be recognized as the educators have plans in place for programming that will utilize the 4-H stewards and 4-H paper clover funds remaining from last year. I'm not sure what the status of the 4-H welding classes are. Previously, they didn't know when they would be holding those, but I'll check with Jake when he's back in the office. He wasn't here today, so I wasn't able to check. There are 2 Happy Trails events scheduled that will utilize all of the 2022 funds and about half of the 2023 funds. And the current and total general and designated fund balances are about 567,000, and that will remain the same until year end unless an earlier transfer is needed. And if any transfers are needed, that we need to get board approval for those. Does anybody have any questions on the balance sheet, or the summary of the balance sheet?
I want to just refer back to these fund balances are will come back into play when we talk about the cash on hand at the end. When you get to that point, so that's where we're gonna get some of the detail from some of that.
So I'll move on to the.
Can
board
you just
summary. Sure.
describe quickly the Happy Trails liabilities?
It was a grant, but they weren't able to do all the programming, so if the funding, any funding goes into deferred revenues until we use it. If it's not being used within 1 month. So we had 1 year, we had a couple of programs, but we didn't have enough to use all the funds. So they've got programs scheduled for later on this year to try and use up those funds. It was a grant, anonymous.
It was actually an anonymous restricted donation for that program. And the model of having groups doing that program and having them wasn't catching on. And so they're shifting to doing 1-day events instead of having a series of events because it was hard for parents and families to commit to a series. So I think it's going to work a lot better to have more kids at 1-day events and still get to have the experience that the donor intended. That's the only restricted private grant we have, or private donation that we have. So we'll stay associated with that program until it's spent down.
And these you can reapply for each year, or?
That donor, as far as I know, is still interested in supporting that program.
Anyone else have any questions?
Who's on staff that's in charge of that?
Jake, I believe, is doing that now.
Yeah, that's why Jake has been working with the well, it's most, has been working with Chantel Gilliland, who is the person who was the donor contacted to support that riding program, the horse program. And Chantel is completely involved in the planning going forward so that her kids will benefit.
Alright. I'll move on to the statement of operations. On the last page of the summary and the last 2 pages of the financial statements. There's a lot more details on the financial statement itself, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions on any of those, but we consolidate it for the board meeting. So we are 25% through the year, and the net from transfers and operations is 20,165.04. Revenues are at 22% and expenses are at 19%. Any categories that are 10% more or less than the expected percentage are highlighted in feature green on the board summary report. Program and operating expenses is the only main category on the summary that's not at the expected percentage. And this is because programming was our minimal at the beginning of the year because of being short-staffed, and also because some of our branch programming expenses besides salary were on hold due to funding being at risk. Which we still have the one program that's on hold. All other changes, all other categories are within 10% where they should be at the end of March. Does anybody have any questions on the statement of operations?
What program is on hold?
The mentoring grant. I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute.
Any questions on any of the reports? That's okay.
I have a motion to accept the financials.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Any further discussion? So the financials are accepted. Thank you. Thank you, Lori.
So the next thing that we're gonna talk about is this cash flow projection. And this was last updated at the end of April 23rd. It's still substantially the same with a few small, a few other notes. If you look at the bottom, there are assumptions noted on the left. And the primary one is that we will maintain our current staff at the same hours and pay rate. We were expecting that the new Adirondack Harvest program leader would start at 15 hours a week through June 30th and then become full-time. I'll talk more about that during my report. We are purchasing a car tomorrow. Very, very exciting. A new car. We bought a 2025 Ford Escape hybrid for the education staff, and we asked them to take the Focus because it's worth about $200. So we don't have to deal with
Not the
selling
staff, the Ford
the
dealership.
Ford dealership, so we don't have to deal with selling it, so that's great. And as of this date, the budgeted revenues that are currently not at risk have been received. So then on the lower right, you see the note section, which reflects the current cash and savings. Actual amounts are included through the end of March 31st, 2025. So what it means is the blue is the money that we can count on. The payments for, there are 2 large USDA grants, were received, and so they used to be at risk. Now they're not at risk because we received them for January and February. Little asterisk there. We have not received recent payment requests for the FMPP grant, which is concerning. So the yellow ones were revenues that were previously at risk that we thought as of the end of April were not. And the red ones were ones that we currently think are at risk. So we're gonna stick with this until we hear otherwise. The Mary grant is still considered at risk. And the public health grant was at risk, but we have gone to contract for that, but it's a very small amount of money. So we basically are still, this projects that the Mary grant, which is for mentoring at-risk and rural youth, which is $300,000 over 3 years, is still at risk. And the consequences of that are that grant covers 3/4 of the 4-H educator's salary and contracts with 2 really important partners, the Etown Social Center and the prevention team, and the supplies and expenses associated with starting a mentoring program. And we basically we're 7 or 8 months into a 3-year program, and we have not been reimbursed since January for the first quarter of the year. So that's problematic. And that's why we do these projections, because if money is at risk, we don't want to consider it we need to consider it and how we might have to pay for that out of our reserves or our fund balances.
So how are you paying Jake?
Jake, so because we have fund balance, this money,
All right,
he'll be paid out of money that we have in the bank. And we will, so at the end of the year, you'll see that we had to use association money or some of the designated funds to pay his salary.
okay.
We have projected, again, one of the assumptions for this cash flow projection is that we keep everyone at the same rate of pay, at the same salary, at the same number of hours throughout 2025. That's kind of our baseline, what we want to do. And that's why if we're cutting things, we're going to cut them out of program expenses, not out of payroll, to the extent that we can. And so for 2025 is still looking okay. Now, some people might look at this, Kevin, I'm looking at you, and say, what? You have $550 in fund balance? You're a puny little organization with $1.5 million budget. Where'd you get all that money? Good stewardship prior to when I got here. So when I started, there was a good fund balance. I commit to the board when I started that I would not leave it any worse than I found it, if I could help it, but I didn't know how things would ensue. But right now, so my recommendation to the board has been standard policy, best practice of maintaining a 4 to 6 month cushion of operations in order to be able to withstand disruptions in our revenue. So right now, at the end of this year, we would, if we have with $1.5 million, a $1.4 million budget, we would still have, if these assumptions hold, we would still have about 30%. No, sorry. No, that's correct, about 30 to 35%. So we're a little below the cushion that we want of 40 to 50% at least, but it makes me feel like we aren't gonna have to lay anybody off right now. This year or going forward, right now. There's so many, this changes so much every single day. It's really, really hard to keep it current, but this is pretty accurate right now. And when in January, that we were looking at an entirely different trajectory where we were going, starting from 550, and we were kind of falling off a cliff. So I feel really good that most of the money that we are expecting is coming in, and we'll continue to help maintain that.
So as a board, as an executive committee, we discussed when January hit and administrations changed and the landscape of financing changed. We discussed what we should do, and this again was part of that. Looking at the future and knowing that, you know, we want to raise the flag at 6 months, at 4 months, at 3 months, so that we can, as a board, make a decision or begin to make decisions if necessary. But as it stands right now, we're okay.
So one of the assumptions that went into this, which we think is still true, is that the FMPP money, which is our large grant, will continue to be paid. But
we're under contract.
We're under contract. It's a federal contract, but that does not.
But we haven't heard anything recently, so that's a bit of a flag, but that's not.
It took them a month to confirm that they got the invoice. Whereas in the past, we have been paid within a day of them getting the invoice. So
we have to keep it on.
yes, that is a really, really important grant that covers salaries for, it's mostly for Adirondack Harvest work. So it covers some coal, it covers the Adirondack Harvest program leader, and it covers a number, $130,000 worth of contracts with subcontractors doing work in the community that we would have to stop. So we are continuing to book the expenses to those grants and to invoice for them. And
so I would think that if we don't hear something within the next couple months, we might need to readjust our assumptions.
Absolutely. I would say, so we were doing it weekly because for the first 8 weeks of the year, we had 0 revenues. So we were doing it weekly. Now we've gone to monthly, and we just have to check our assumptions every single day.
Yeah.
Or every single week. We don't do it every day. That's kind of nutty. But Laura maybe does. I don't know. So I think it's really, we have all, I think probably some of you in your lives too, feel like this sort of pinball effect that we're just like thrown around and then thrown in a different direction. And the next day you come in and there's a whole other thing going on that we didn't expect. That is still happening. And we just don't know. So we're going to try and maintain normal assumptions, and we're going to try and let you know if the assumptions change, and we'll provide you with updated numbers. The purpose of which is to have conversations about how to react to changes before we have to react. So that's our goal. And by that, that means looking at projecting what our salary needs are first, covering those to the extent we possibly can first, and being proactive about finding alternative revenues if some of these fall out. So to that end, I might just, if it's okay with you, in the line of the agenda, but a little bit different. I was going to talk about it during my executive director's report, but if it's okay with you, I'm going to talk about fund development here.
All right.
So in order to respond to what we are fairly sure are going to be really, really significant federal changes that are going to trickle down to the state, which are going to trickle down to the county. I am trying to come up with a sort of proactive fund development plan. This is a whole new game for cooperative extension, which has relied on public funding almost 100% as in its whole entire history. Is that right, Lori?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's never been annual campaigns, there's never been private foundation fundraising, there's never been corporate fundraising, not a lot of corporations in Essex County, but there can be, there totally can be. And I've made a new good friend at the Adirondack Foundation who has an interest in agriculture and a background in agriculture, who is already, talking to me about how we might do that. I have been meeting with a group of fundraising of development step people. I just started to do this to kind of think about it. I've attended a couple webinars that are specifically extension related fundraising. I do not know where I'm going to go here, where it's going to wind up, but we have to start before we need it. And I don't know exactly what it will look like. But I just want you to know that I think that that's really important. I think that the days of relying 100% on public funding are over. And I think that the trickle down, I mean, I don't mean to be dire, but I think it's a fact that everyone should be aware of, is it's going to be 2026 is going to be rough, because all the money that is mandated for services in Essex County by the US government and by the state of New York are going to lose their funding. So when they lose funding for things that are mandated, they're going to have to take away funding from things that are optional.
Yeah.
So we are a contract agency. They do have to give us something, but there's no law that says how much. They know how valuable what we do is, and they know that no one else does exactly what we do. And so the county programs are all going to be impacted. Public health, senior office for the aging, office of mental health, there's going to just be a lot of trickle down cuts that are going to come to the county. And there are, as recently as 2 hours ago, it was mentioned to me again. So
I think even while the impetus came from public funding being stressed, I think it's still a good strategy. It would have been a good strategy a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago for us to start thinking about finding greater diversity in our where we're sourcing. And part of that is simply because it's a reflection of community investment as well. That having other community entities, whether it's private or NGO or whatever, investing in CCE is a good strategy.
I agree. And it was actually a thing that really appealed to me about working at cooperative extension, because I do feel really good that we have a really good return on investment for tax dollars. It's yours and yours and yours and mine. It's our tax money. And when I talk to people that we're funded with their tax money, they feel good about that. So I want to keep that feeling, but I need to translate it into into just diversifying our revenue streams. The other thing that I don't even like to think about, and I don't think it'll make a difference enough to, but we should talk about fee for service work. We don't charge for anything. We never have. That I can tell. I don't know.
We
Maybe,
charge for programs.
but moderate. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah. I meant have people ever paid the full price of programs, or just?
No, well.
I think
depends.
it's only sometimes for 4-H ones, depending on the program, I think there was times that we'd have to, especially like with Cornell trips, but I think like locally, we try to with paper pulver and stuff. Cause some of those ones at Cornell would be like $400, and locally, we knew a lot of our families often couldn't do that, so we tried to supplement with pulling from wherever we could.
I think that's really a mark of excellence, really. It's putting people's money to work for them, but we may have to modify that. I don't know. There are lots of ways to change how our revenue comes in, and I don't know what it'll look like yet, but I'll need a little more time to kind of figure it out. But that needs to
Elizabeth?
happen. Yes.
If I could just jump in, I wanted to let the board know that while this may be a bit of a new venture for Essex County, it's really an entire spectrum of business models across the state in terms of how different associations have diversified their portfolio of revenue, all the way from I'll call it sticking their toe in the water to finding some other resources to some all the way to the other end of the spectrum where 80% of their revenue is other than core funding. And so there are folks out there that if Elizabeth chooses to, she can talk to them and find out, how did you get where you were and how long did it take? And, there is no one model that's right or wrong. It's a matter of how much do you want to pursue other than core funding? And what are the likely candidates? Is there low hanging fruit to pursue? Those are always the easiest to do. And that's all part of the process.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that one of the things that has been important to me since I got here is really understanding who our partners are. And it's really important in a county like this, for us to remain collaborative with our partners and not compete with them for funding for the same. We all have a niche and we all have different revenue streams, or some of them overlap, but we do not want to ace out another one of our community partners who also is experiencing the exact same kind of funding cuts and funding pressure. And so luckily, as recently as this afternoon, the Adirondack Food System Network was, we met and we reiterated that that's really our priority, is to work together to take in as much as we can and make sure that each one of the organizations that we're able to match our funding opportunities with the needs, the highest needs as best we can together. So
Ready to go.
yeah, I really feel like we are in good communication about that. So that will be part of our unique mix. We'll figure it out. And I will say that interestingly, Kevin, I would like to talk to you more about the IDA because they just entered into the ag space, which is interesting in Essex County. They have not been in the ag space before. It didn't go as well as we would have liked, but nonetheless, we are in conversation with them and they're big supporters. So,
well, and you mentioned it earlier, in those cases, hopefully what I call the C word, collaboration rather than competition. And those discussions can typically get there where 2 organizations or 3 organizations are a lot stronger than one going at it by themselves. So there's always opportunity there.
Agreed. With that, just so we can move on, does anyone have any questions about cash flow projections or fundraising? That my chat about fundraising.
Let's just keep an eye on the end. Let's talk when we get more information.
We kind of, I think at the executive committee, we said if there's something like as much up to 10% of change in projected revenue. Is that right, Laura?
I think so.
That we would alert you. So yeah, let's keep going. What do you say? Changes to financial controls. Those are really straightforward. Laura, you
Really straightforward. I know we've already approved these once, maybe twice this year so far. But our final changes, the final thing on the back, the changes to this document did say that we could change names whenever we needed to, and then we bring it to the board. So that's all that happened here. We had to take Ashley off and replace it with Tricia. So there were no other changes to it except for name changes.
I move to adopt the changes.
Second,
Those are authorizations and financial controls. Yeah. Cool.
we have a second, all in favor of the authorizations and financial controls being approved? Or any opposed? Okay, we've got that done.
The review of grants and contracts, really excited. Ellie Hoffman was really successful in getting a Rooted in Learning grant. She is a new educator, less than a year at CCE Essex, and it's a $48,000 grant.
Congratulations.
It's for continue our farm to school work, and it will start, I think it starts June 1st and goes through August or September of 2026, something like that. So excited for her. She really crafted that and put it together, and it's great.
We need to accept.
No, this is just a report
Okay.
because I think it just says we have to report to you.
You don't have to accept them.
No, because there's other ones too.
Okay.
The USDA one that is noted on the agenda is for the Public Health Essentials Grant, and that one was one that we thought was at risk, but actually it's gone to contract, and that one is 7,000 even, I think, right? Laura? And the other one that's not on here, there's a couple more. We are a recipient, we're a subcontractor on an 80K action grant, which is also around $7,000 also, correct? And those are for senior nutrition, both of them.
Jobs there.
Yeah, that's Samantha. And congrats to her, she got those. Those are grantor contract, and we have two new proposals that we are submitting for 4-H to try and backfill some of the money that has not come in from the Mary grant. One is from the 4-H, New York State 4-H Council, which is about preventing food loss and waste. That's the one that Jake talked to you about, and that would be one that we would implement in Oasis as well as in other school programs. That will be about composting and circular relationships with the environment. Yeah, it's really good. We're hopeful. That one's for 15, very competitive, but we feel good about it. And then we're also gonna apply for another $10,000 one, which is, again, they're really competitive, but we're as good a recipient as any, and we have, Jake has got some really good ideas. It's gonna be on childhood obesity prevention, and it's actually, only offered in counties where there's a Hannaford's, so it's a partnership between Hannaford's and the Food and Nutrition Education Council or Committee or some C, whatever that word.
In counties.
Correct. So
Lake
there,
Placid has one, right?
that's right. So there are 16 counties that have Hannaford's in them that also have the other part, half the match that they want. So since we have a Hannaford's in Lake Placid, and we've gotten money from them before for a little one-offy thing.
Yeah, like selling bouquet, I mean.
Yeah, they sell
Bouquets
Yeah.
or, I don't know.
Yeah, so
We get
Hannaford's
low
likes
price.
us, and
Yeah.
for me, first off, it's great if they want to support our 4-H work, which is, childhood obesity is an identified
Mhm.
concern in Essex County, so good for that, we'll try it. He has some good ideas, and has already just at his fingertips, got 4-H curriculum, like, good to go. And he's talking to the right people, so, and so we'll let you know if those fly. And the other one that I'll just mention that's on the horizon is a Catalyst grant from the Northern Border Region Commission. And Regional Commission, we had a really good proposal that Cole presented to them for about 250,000, is that something like that, Laura?
Something like that.
And in the spring, and it was very well received in the pre-application. We were invited to complete a full application, but we did not have the bandwidth at that time to complete the full application, and they encouraged us. We also have this FMPP grant, which we thought was ramping back up after ramping down. So they encouraged us to apply in the fall. There's a fall round, so we will resubmit that in fall.
I regret to inform that the programs are publicly
The Northern Border Zones.
funded. I'm on the board of the forest economy program
Okay.
of the NUS. And we've got word recently that
All of
the
the, first-
administration is getting the full money, so. That may be heading, so
we don't,
we,
again,
that's another flag. It doesn't mean we shouldn't
Mm-mm.
go
Yeah.
forward, just means.
yeah, they were one of the very first federally funded organizations to say, yeah, the green light, our programs are gonna be funded this year. Do you think that's gonna, I hope we didn't miss the boat by the spring round, but I think it's likely that they won't honor the spring round if they're under review. Yeah. Yeah, so that's not great news. But
I have, there's a sense that we have the money to spend, but then after this, it's. Gonna be on hold at least until
mhm,
4 years from now.
the midterm election is 16 months from now. Or
Not
right?
soon enough.
So-
Right?
So move forward, but let's
Right.
not bank on it.
Yeah, so we don't really know. And in fact, some of the I don't like to talk politics, it's not a political venue, but I need to tell you the facts. We have been today, the Adirondack Food System Network, I did hear updates from many of our partners who are very concerned about the cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and how that will impact our food system. And tomorrow is the day that the House is gonna vote on that bill. So if any of you are inclined, and it's one of my questions, actually, any of you are inclined to comment to your legislators or any other legislators, feel free to do that. there is a sign-on letter, that, CCE Essex could sign on to, and I didn't have a copy of it in time to put it in front of you. If it's not, I don't know, so that's maybe something to discuss. That cooperative extension sees the impacts on our local community and are concerned about our service recipients. I would certainly be willing to say that, but I don't know what else it might say other than that. I don't know. I know that, our.
And that
congressional
would go to Stefanik.
Mhm. And I know that she is very much in favor of the agenda that's being funded with that bill, the funding bill. So I don't know that we would have a whole lot of, we would have a huge impact, but
So it did get passed through the committee. So they're
Yeah.
gonna vote.
they're gonna vote on it. That is one of the ones that will have the biggest trickle down for us, because that Medicaid is required by law. SNAP is required by law, so those are mandated things that if they're cut at the top and that the costs are passed to the state will, that will really potentially impact a lot of our county. So the state will require the county to pick up a bigger share, so and if they do that, more people will be eligible or need the help. So we, I just don't even know how to talk to you about that. I don't know.
If that's something you want to pursue, I think. Let's do the same.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Another partner along those lines would be Alice, the Alice Network, but
Um,
they run the statistics.
we're very much in touch
Okay.
with them through the Well-Fed Collaborative and Brief Coalition, the Building Resilience in Essex Families. So that's the other side of the house for us. You know, we have the farmers and the food system, and then we also have the recipients of food and agriculture and food and especially local food. Kevin, I'm sort of saying this for your benefit. We have a lot of community partners in the we call it community vitality, side of the house. And to try and make sure that try and support WIC to have local food for nursing families, to try and have food pantries be recipients of excess produce and meat. And so we need to be a good community partner, but we don't know what we're gonna do yet. We don't know what's gonna happen, so we're just taking it day by day. Yeah, welcome to CCE in 2025.
Do you have a primary grant writer?
We have an outstanding staff of writers.
So it's a collaborative effort every time?
No, we kind of the supervisors pitch to me what they want to apply for.
Mhm.
And I have no problem trusting them to come up with a really solid application. We have an outstanding proofreader, Laura Davis, who really kind of cleans up a lot of things, but
It's really our senior staff that, I mean, our position descriptions don't really allow the entry level positions to be writing grants, but we encourage
They
them
draft them.
they can craft them and work with their supervisors and to make sure everything gets cleaned up.
I'm just really, really impressed with the quality of writing that the staff produces. It's really good. And we do have a spreadsheet that tracks our active applications and the status of things that we weren't funded for, what we're in we're mapping what we're gonna apply for in the future. And what we see coming up and kind of gambling on what's a good bet. Like I'll gamble to a certain extent, but a lot of the small grants that we would apply for, including the two I just named, they're almost as much work as a big one.
Absolutely.
And so.
John, there's no dedicated grant writer because the staff are more keyed into particularly the topic area of what's required of those, and it's easier when there's a sort of decentralized.
That makes sense, yeah.
And if we didn't have the qualifications in the staff, that would probably fall to me.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have.
And who has actually successfully?
I have had some success in large grant writing, but the opportunities are just not what they used to be.
Yeah.
So you can't, so they do keep releasing. In fact, today, the USDA released new grant funding opportunities for small farms. have not, I mean, it was a press release from the Secretary of Agriculture. Just came out this afternoon, so I haven't gotten to look at that yet, but what their agenda is for small farms, we'll see. They keep releasing. In their press releases, they keep saying they're promoting such and such a priority. What that means in terms of what they're gonna fund, I don't know, because it depends on how much they cut.
Yeah,
I actually just occurred to me, and I can't, well, I didn't see you all day, but it just occurred to me, I got an email earlier today. I have to dig through my emails to find it, that said that the applications are now open for the next round of FMPP, LMPP funding, that whole thing.
That was one that was discussed in the Food
Yeah.
System Network, and people were, they're sort of salivating and,
Like, if we can get paid for our current one, that would be good.
yeah. So again, it's risk assessment,
Mhm.
you know, or not so much risk, but cost benefit, like the amount of time to prepare those big grants is significant.
Mhm.
We don't know. Yeah, we just don't know.
Is there anything else you want to highlight on the reports?
None of the grants. Nope, I think that's all the grants we have to report on right now. We have other small contracts, but they're not consequential. One is Language Line. We finally signed a contract with to provide translation for senior wellness programs. It was a requirement. We also the Fair Board. We have signed a contract with the Fair Board. Everyone, I don't know. All I can tell you is that's a challenging relationship.
Yes.
But I think we'll get there.
Talking about that, and I can come in and I have told Jake if he needs, like, want somebody when he has to go there.
I haven't made him do that yet.
Okay, cause he's like, I don't know if I want to. I was like, I will,
Thank
I
you.
will always go.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. So we are, and I'll be happy to share where we're at with that. It's not as bad as it could be. We're making progress. Okay. Yeah, want to keep going?
Yes, so we have the staff program report. It was emailed out earlier. If you've had a chance to look at that. The committees. I did appoint 3 new committee members to Community Vitality. We've got Colleen Bassett, who is a nurse and on the OFA advisory council for the county. Patricia Damp is a 3rd grade teacher from Lake Placid. And Herb Longwear is a new master gardener and involved community member from Westport. So, and the only man on the committee.
Also Denise McLaughlin.
I haven't contacted her.
Oh, do you want me to?
Somebody did.
Yes, you did. We did.
You did.
Oh,
Did I?
You did.
I did.
She's fully understands she's on.
Yes.
Somebody- Somebody reached out.
Yep.
All right. Yes, okay, all
So
right.
she's a 4-H. She is.
You're
She was the first one.
Just board members and 4 committee.
Oh. Denise works at the Etown Community Hospital and she works actually in diabetes, chronic disease prevention, and she's a lifetime 4-H'er, right?
and she's a
Yeah.
good one to have because her husband is the one that would have do the welding program. It went back to Laura's update.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so that's a good plug there to keep
Very cool.
Rich
all right, okay, good,
stuff.
that's good to know.
Love that. And that committee hasn't met for a while, so that's meeting.
Yeah,
next
we're
Wednesday, or
meeting
this
next
one,
week, I believe, a Zoom meeting.
Tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes,
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, so, and then, we do need a board member to be the liaison for that committee. If any of you would like to volunteer for that,
For Vitality?
Yes.
Vitality.
yes,
Those quarterly meetings.
yeah,
The program advisory committee meetings, for those of you, I'm gonna make a sales pitch, because these guys are on executive committee, or you can do that.
I'm happy to do it, but if
Awesome.
there's.
You're now an executive.
I say give you guys a little minute.
You're doing
to- Up to you. Florence also said she might be willing to, but she's on the other one, right?
No,
Yeah.
she's off. She's done with the ag committee.
Okay,
all right.
so maybe we don't have.
She
to
was on
make
the
that
ag
motion. Florence was.
This to me.
I say put it out there, chew on it, especially new members.
Yeah,
Chew
yeah,
on
it's,
it for a little
it's
bit.
not a lot. It's
Yeah,
really
by
not
the
a
way,
lot.
Herb is from Hillsborough.
Yes, what did I say, Westport? All right, Willsboro.
Don't ever mention that he.
Those are
I'm
fighting
sorry.
words.
I apologize.
Do you want to appoint someone now or just wait? Or does you want to take Jess up on her offer?
No.
No.
If it comes back, if there's no.
All right,
takers,
all right,
I'm happy
well,
to-
I'll go to the meeting on Wednesday, but I would really love it if somebody else could take that for me.
Like tomorrow, Wednesday.
Next day.
Yeah.
Next Monday.
Tomorrow.
Today. It's a Zoom meeting, 5 o'clock Zoom.
So what does this person do?
That,
What
that
do
would
you
be
do?
helpful.
Right?
I really,
I can send that out. I'll
I
send out. a-
really just listened. There were a lot of very creative, constructive ideas about 4-H programming in kind of far-reaching areas of the county that we're not super involved with. I don't know really how much actually came to fruition, but there was a lot of good ideas. And
I
it,
can tell you the two things that are sort of intended. A program advisory committee is the way for the community to tell us what's going on out there.
Mhm.
And just, so we listen. And then the staff takes that in and says, what can we do something about? Or who else do we know who can do something about that? That's the purpose of the program advisory committees. And also to be ambassadors for what we do, because, for example, in Ticonderoga, if we're not, well, we are there because Sam's there a lot, but if we're in Spruce Lake and they don't know what we do, having a program advisory committee member who has an idea, that's helpful, or someone at the hospital, that's helpful for them to know that we do senior wellness and youth, childhood obesity prevention. Just be ambassadors and take info back and forth.
Okay. And then when we have a board meeting, you have a chance to sort of update on whatever the last program committee meeting, if they came up with anything
And that,
to share.
yes, and that is a requirement of extension. That's part of the extension. Our constitution says we have program advisory committees. But they are, it's non-voting. I mean, it's not decision-making. It's really just to get info in. And that's why I'm really excited that we have new people who are, we'll have some good ideas.
so, Adirondack Harvest Committee,
I think that would be Mike Cuba.
and he's
our
not
liaison. He's not
here.
here. We've really just, our last meeting was just an update on what we've been doing recently since Mary left and then we hired the new person. I don't know if we can
I'm gonna
talk
talk about
about
that.
the new person. Okay.
Yeah, we skipped over the ED report, but I can wait to the end. Let's get to some of these
Okay.
other
Okay.
things and then I'll go back to that. Ag and local community. I don't know, any updates?
But you, George?
George, how's your committee there?
The last meeting we had, I do believe was in the winter, right? It seemed like, main topic was marketing. Trying to broaden out the potential of new markets and stuff, and a lot of talk about wholesale sales. Trying to establish more wholesale markets, than we've had, that's about all
Hey,
I can
George.
tell you.
So in Water Conservation District, we've been talking with the Lake Champlain Basin Program about doing an education outreach event or series potentially for producers in the area. And what we've discovered, we were originally looking at sort of pasture walks and talks and the like, but have discovered that one of the real biggest topics of interest is markets. And when you have competing producers who are competing on the same market for, say, beef, there's just questions about what then, so I would love, and because we were talking about working collaboratively with CCE or having Cornell staff come in and do some of these talks, I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to talk about again, having someone on the market side of things maybe come in and be another conversation point in those talks. So
And
I
this
would
is
love to
a,
work with you, George, in particular. Let's have a meeting scheduled and talk about that and see what CCE and soil and water can do this.
I know that, you know, a number of years ago, private marketing of beef, you know, locally was, a big push and, you know, it was at one time only a couple people in the county that pursued that, but then, more and more got into that and like, they flooded the market so much
Yeah.
that there was not enough market there for that many people in that business, but the thing is, we're getting more and more, small animal, business
Mhm.
to market in the county, and, that's a tough one. And Cole, we're very lucky because Cole has been very involved in that kind of stuff. He really knows a lot of markets, with people that, he's worked with before. So I've had one young man, ask me, you know, you've been farming a long time, how can I make money with sheep? And my first piece of advice was, you either have to have about 1,000 of them or get rid of them and don't have any, so. But I told him to get a hold of Cole.
Right.
But, you know, you're finding more and more people with, you know, sheep and, goats and pigs and stuff looking for a market and, you know, we've got a terrible problem here locally that, to find, someone to process
Mhm.
this stuff. We've been down that road, before, and it did not work out very well at all, and that's, you know, that's one thing that you have to have a way of processing it.
And I think this is actually one of those areas where the IDA, you know, again, going back to what we were talking before, there was a little bit of, I think, momentum. Collaborating with the IDA, looking for people who wanted and had these ideas to step forward. And I think, again, there's at least a discussion to be had. Hopefully that would then lead to hopefully some development, but let's sit down, schedule a time, soil and water, George, CC.
Well, I think,
And maybe even the
but you know,
IDA.
the IDA was
The
the
business
organization that
development, the
really
marketing.
promoted
Yeah.
the processing
Yeah,
plant down in the
exactly.
tie.
Exactly.
And a whole bunch of us wrote letters and called people and everything else, and they did come up with the funding and everything, but, it was so poorly managed and everything that, it didn't work out at all, and so that's a, you know, that's a major part of the puzzle is you have to be able to process all these animals and try to develop a local market, but the wholesale thing, you know, I've never been a strong supporter of that because you're more or less just creating cash flow and that's about it. It's very hard to make any money in the wholesale market. You need to retail and,
Yeah.
and but,
I think,
like in the produce business, we don't even have a big wholesaler around here anymore now. I mean, we used to have Praise, that would ship stuff to the Albany market for you. We used to have Ashline's Fruit and Vegetables and Fruit in Willsboro, who was huge. I did so much business with them for years and years. And so, you know, nobody's picked up the ball here, either, so, you know. We're in a bad spot right here. For that kind of marketing, compared to a lot of different counties and, you know, in Vermont and stuff, but.
I think you're right, though, George, that Cole is a real area of expertise.
Yes,
He's been
he-
really involved in that. So
Yes,
we need him
he's
in the
done a
conversation.
lot of work with a lot of different marketing type organizations and, he knows his stuff. I've talked to him numerous times about things and there hasn't been anything I haven't asked him that he didn't have an answer for. So, yeah. And I think that, you know, we should take advantage of his expertise and, you know, maybe he can get
I agree.
some people from out of the area to be willing to come here and start doing some business, here. But you got, you know, you gotta have the volume too, you know, they just won't come here for 2 or 3 pigs and half a dozen sheep, you know, I was talking to a guy in Burlington. Now he's opened up a business over there. And I haven't talked to Cole about him yet, but, I'm gonna have him contact that guy. That's what he wants to work with, and he's been working with sheep and goats, pigs, chickens, anything like that, these small, you know, not just beef animals and stuff. And he's looking for a market, and I told him about Essex County over here, that we have a lot of that kind of agriculture in this county, and so when I get a chance, I'm gonna tell Cole, get a hold of that guy and see if he'd be interested in, you know, just coming into the area and start drumming up some possibilities, but, and he processes them right in Burlington. So, I mean, you know, apparently he's got a local market there for that stuff. So,
Thanks, George.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So when is my turn and George's turn on?
George's is the end of 2025, yours is the end of 2026.
All of the updated organizational chart with all the terms is in your binder. I updated it recently. It should be in the first section there too.
and Chrissy's done, too, yeah,
Yeah,
she
this
came on
George,
and I did,
the first half.
huh? Her and I
Let's see.
started together.
Section two of your binders. Yeah.
Thank you for updating all that, Lori.
Thank you, Laura. As we think about our terms, I really would like to talk about, particularly as we are updating the executive committee. The treasurer position, I think, is not necessarily more unique than any of the others, but it requires a little bit of knowledge, like the trainings that I recently did too, and beyond that. So if there's anyone else interested in being treasurer, when I'm done, I would really like to make sure that person is sort of in the know and maybe transitioning with me.
Maybe co-treasurers were, maybe that might be, you can't be a co-treasurer, I think.
Something.
Yeah.
We can talk about it, but if you're interested in being a treasurer, again, I'm looking at new people.
Stress.
I thought I'd at least have one meeting.
You can have,
Listen,
you can have 2 meetings.
thank you.
But
You've got until October.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I barely made it through 2 meetings.
Hey, you volunteered, you
It's
volunteered.
great that to jump in early and get that experience early.
Yeah.
That's great.
Can I move that we update the EEO statement and policy? Can I do that in one fall swoop?
No,
You have to do the report stuff.
no, I'm gonna do my report at the end, if that's okay, but this EEO statement, okay, you just all need to know that this is completely driven by executive orders. That's
Yeah.
what that's what this is all about. And it's coming from 2 places. One is that Cornell is different from extension, but so long to cut to the chase, the comments that you see on the right-hand side were when a lawyer reviewed the equal opportunity, education and employment opportunity statement. And those recommendations for things that had to go, I would agree with. a lawyer looked at them and said. If you leave that stuff in there, it's potentially, it could be flagged as. Being in violation of executive orders. Yeah, so it's really hard. To wrap your head around all of the implications of that, but there's two pieces. One is that we are an equal employment organization, and one is that we are an equal education organization. So this language removes any question about that. What I don't know is this all refers to Cornell University, not extension. So I think that we would have to put the word Cornell Cooperative Extension where you say university, and I didn't think of that before.
Mhm.
For the sake of expedience, I'll move that we pass or that we adopt the new edits to the statement.
Okay, and I will substitute extension for where it says Cornell University or Cornell.
I second.
I don't like this. So my discussion point is I don't like this and I don't think we should adopt it, but pass it, be for it. Kevin, and Elizabeth, why do we have to do this? We had a board meeting just the last meeting, we said.
We said we weren't gonna do it unless they made us do it.
Right.
They made us do it, pretty much. The reason why, and that's not exactly accurate, but Kevin, you can correct me or jump in here as you like, but basically what the deal is that Cornell is in a state of flux between trying to establish where the boundary is between Cornell University and Cornell the Extension Service, because if Cornell University is targeted in the way that has been suggested for all their research funding and all of their the other funding associated at the federal level with the land grant universities, the impacts on extension will be devastating. It will be the end of extension as we know it. Is that an exaggeration, Kevin?
It's not an exaggeration. There's a reason why the university is saying, in this case, extension should want to distance itself from the university because the university right now kind of has a target on its back. And so this is probably the right course right now, not knowing a lot. And so you're exactly right, Elizabeth, that we were told this is what cooperative extension needs to do. They need to do this and separate themselves from the university in this case. And there was a lot of interpretation going on right now from University Council. You'll probably hear more about it. It's going to be a process in terms of what will that relationship be going forward. Nobody's going to abandon anybody, but there's a reinterpretation of what is that relationship between Cornell University and the independent associations that are out there.
I don't like this, but if this is what helps us move forward, we know what our ethics are, we know what we believe in, we know what our mission is.
I want to be really, really clear. I'm going to say it every time we meet if I need to. It will not change the way we do our work. It is going to be when we hire people, when we talk as a team, when we talk to our, talk to the public, it is not going to change how we do our work. But there is no point in adding insult to injury.
Sure.
When they already have paused 2 of our grants, and if they, and Kevin is really right that this is sort of a new era of extension. It is a new era where the extension administration is saying, hang on, we need some space between extension and the associations. That has not been said before in the history of extension. So that is a whole new landscape, and we don't really know where it's going to go. And there are some associations that are super hot about it. They're mad. They do not want there to be any space. They want to have a specific guidance and direction from the administration. I'm not in that place because I don't think it benefits our association right now. I think that y'all have the capacity to decide for ourselves what is best for us. I can only give you my best recommendation and say that I don't think it's worth going to court to separate ourselves from extended administration.
To do the work we're gonna do, I don't think this changes anything, but I
It's
just think
bad.
I
It's
think it's
bad.
sad that we have to censor ourselves in
I-
order to do that, that's all.
I would say too, at the last meeting, like from the state 4-H point, I was like, we haven't heard too much about it. But from then to now, it's kind of I don't wanna say petered down, but animal science, I feel like we're kind of in our own little bubble. And we're now getting this dished out to us as well. And even the university has said, like, clearly a lot of us are housed on campus in some capacity. But I don't wanna say we're feeling that distance, but they're also trying to protect 4-H at that level too from stuff. But it's been, I don't wanna say an awkward, but it has kind of been like this, we don't agree with these things either. With our youth across the whole state, but it is a big discussion with universities trying to protect us, but also like Kevin said, there's that target. And they don't want us to be with that, but I feel like the core values of 4-H were kind of in that target with them a bit, but. We went, last time I was like, oh, we haven't heard this, and now I'm like, oh, we're hearing it.
Yeah,
We're feeling it, but
I think that we can. I think we can live with what is said. It is offensive to back down from sticking up for people that we've stuck up for forever.
Yeah.
And individually, as I can tell you that in the individual staff here don't feel good about it either. And we all want to continue. I don't know, it does feel like complicity in some ways, that's not a good feeling, but we can't do any work if we don't have any funding.
Great.
And if something changes, I don't know,
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
And I think that actually the second one, which is this is the.
We need to vote on the first one.
Oh, yeah, so,
I'll just say this, this is focusing our language, leave it at that.
Yeah.
My motion stands.
All right, so this is to adopt the updated EEO statement.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm in favor with great reluctance.
right,
Yeah,
Well, I think. it's-
unfortunately, it's a yes, no, or abstain, which.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
it's a yes.
we can't
All
be
right.
present like the.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and
do
then,
roll call. Yeah, right.
and then the policy,
I think,
Move.
yeah, I think it's in the same, I didn't do a proper job of deleting some of the other things. There's one comment from the lawyer, but the whole section in the statement above, I'm gonna need to send this back to you, or unless you want to just authorize me to revise it, which I don't think I can. I think that you have to adopt the policy. But the whole thing from the third or fourth line down, starting with
We
Any-
could adopt it with edits as discussed,
okay.
proposed edits as discussed.
So the whole section about involving but not limited to factors such as race, color, religion, political beliefs, national or ethnic origin, gender, sexual orientation, age, marital or family status, veteran or disability, that whole thing has to go. Basically, there can be no discrimination.
Can you say not limited to stuff?
It's on the basis of any legally prohibited discrimination. Because it is still illegal to discriminate against veterans.
Yeah.
And somewhat disabilities, but not
I
blanket.
second Alicia's motion
Okay,
and we moved as comments discussed.
okay, and then the other thing that's in red would also go to the extent permitted by law. Or the maintenance of affirmative action programs would go away. And we do not, to my knowledge, have in the bottom, the last sentence, we do not have an equal employment opportunity program. But we do have a continuing, we could have small letters for our action plan for progress and compliance with federal.
Don't. I know it gets confusing with. Our relationship with the county. The county has an EOP.
Hmm.
Are we not, I thought we were,
Is that,
that
I've
we,
never seen that
we
anywhere.
have, I thought there was,
Do they
I
have,
thought
a-
that was part of the confusing relationship is that if they have an EOP, we have an EOP. At least that's sort of the case.
It's not in our contract,
No.
Okay,
but the other thing that is totally messed up about the whole scenario we're discussing, which is that the federal guidelines are not aligned with the New York state law. So we're following, that's why we're using the
point.
expression what does it say, as allowable by law or whatever, what does it say?
It says in accordance
It-
with applicable laws.
Right, and if the applicable law is New York State law, that's the law we're gonna follow.
Right.
But that could also be a flag for,
Whichever law is most.
well, as you know where that will go, we aren't gonna wait around till they get into mortal combat in court about whether New York State law is correct or US
Right.
executive order or a presidential executive order trumps a, no pun intended, and a New York State law. Let me tell you, Letitia James has thoughts and feelings about that. And so we're not gonna wait until that, they work that one out.
My motion second stands for Alicia's motion.
Okay, on the policy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Okay, I do have some ED things that I
All
can
right,
report on.
okay,
I'll
go
try and
ahead
be
and
really
do
quick. I
that.
know that it's already past time. We are, next week, Kate Graziano, who is our public health core fellow, it will be her last day on, the end of March, the 30th, actually, or June, no, June 1, May, it's June 1. So just know that that is already one casualty of, executive orders or federal administration's funding priorities. Another piece of news I need you to know in the staff department is, that Taylor Sprague, who is the person we hired to be the ironic harvest program leader, is changed her availability. Do you want to talk about that, Lori?
Just, yeah, a little bit. She was started out part-time because our funding was iffy and she's a teacher and she wanted to keep teaching through June and then she was gonna come on full-time and we thought that was gonna be it. And then she also runs her own farm business with events every month. And, I think it came down to biting off more than she could chew and she's done recalculations to realize that for the salary we were paying her for 9 months, for a 12-month job is the same as she's getting for a 9-month job teaching, plus she can run her own farm business. So she said she's already lost money that and she's just reevaluated. She feels absolutely terrible, but has said she'll continue doing a little part-time if we need her right now, but I think we're gonna meet tomorrow, Elizabeth and Cole and I, to sort out where to go from here.
Right.
So she's essentially backing away from the position?
Yeah.
Didn't nowhere in
She didn't
her email
resign.
said resignation, but clearly that's where
She
she's
needs a way
headed.
out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, nobody needs to more staff turnover, least of all CCE Essex, but we have it, so we're gonna deal with it. We had some great applicants. And from what we hear, the applicant pool going into other organizations, open positions is very strong. It's a pain in the neck. It's more work for Lori. It could, the festival needs to have some staff, not just Lori. That was a full-time job in the past and more. There were 2 other people who worked on it. We're gonna figure it out. We don't have much choice. And Cole is aware. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow. We just learned today. Welcome to Monday.
Yeah.
I guess if you think this is the right person for it, if there's some accommodation that we can make, I encourage you. Obviously, I don't need to
I don't
tell you
think there
that,
is,
but obviously
Yeah.
I would assume there are also other great candidates that are,
We have astonishingly
So-
good candidates, so I'm hopeful,
Right.
and I really think she's, she runs this business with her family.
Sure.
They've had major discussions. She said it was really agonizing, but they all came to this conclusion. So I think her mind is made up and that's frankly, Cole and I had already sensed this. So this was a relief happen now,
Yeah.
not in August when the
Yeah.
festival's around the corner.
Better now.
So, I'm actually looking forward to moving on here and it would feel better to me to have a solid person in this position to.
it
really
does
run it.
also beg the question that we were in when we were hiring for this position before, which is that if the FMPP money is paused, this position is paid for with FMPP money.
Yeah.
So that's not great, and it would be a gamble for anyone to take it.
Yeah.
In her case, she's a teacher who's on a New York State pension plan, like, why would she do that? She gets health benefits. That's not iffy. Kids are gonna go to school, so far as we know. So she made a good decision for her own needs, but it's just kind of messed up for us.
Mhm.
But we're gonna have to figure that out too, because anybody we hire is gonna be, until we hear that we have guaranteed funding. We do if they pay us.
Yeah. I think the good the good news out of this, if anything, is that the festival's in really good shape. Our fundraising for the festival has exceeded our expectations, and our almost everything is lined up in the way of food and entertainment and all that stuff. We now have graphics, graphic design all picked out, so we'll be starting some social media pushes. I mean, it's just me doing more of the work that I had given up. But now, you know, Cole and I are working together to get those things done, and it's early enough that I think what's really suffering is a big Adirondack Harvest presence, right? That Mary was writing articles and doing all sorts of social media stuff. There was a lot happening that we just paused on, and we were gearing to ramp up, and now we're just gonna pause a little bit again.
So, I don't need to tell you, I probably don't need to add fuel to the fire, but, if you need the board to support, for instance, something like that, to write articles, to hire someone on
Yeah.
a fee by article basis or something like that to get the word out. I mean, we've already talked about that for something else, other things. Or if you need to recalibrate the position so as to right size it. Or think about including it in the budget for the county next year, that we have a dedicated position of the county.
Yeah,
So,
I am really
I-
rethinking what our budget ask is gonna look like, and I think that the 4-H position and the Adirondack Harvest position are their top priorities. I mean, and that's
Mhm.
what we
That's
have,
what we target with them next year.
yeah,
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll keep you posted. I do have a couple other things that I do need to make sure that and let you know about, so I'm gonna keep going. I think I mentioned, I think everyone was here, we are buying a car tomorrow.
Congratulations.
2025 Ford Escape, hybrid Escape. It's gonna be great. So we'll take down some of the projection, it'll revise the projections, it's all good. The other thing that's really important that I want to make sure that well, two things I want direction on. One is, golly, I don't want to go into a super in-depth explanation. Statewide, cooperative extension is going to is proposing a review of our policies by a lawyer. Really good idea.
Mhm.
Extension administration is willing to pay $4,000 to do the packet of policies that are systems or compliance related that we can't change, that cover the whole system. And then we would pay to have our individual local policies be reviewed if we chose to. This is really important in some other counties. I don't feel like we have a big problem with our policies, but there have been some policies that have been questioned in legal ways in other counties. So I think it's really worth our interest. This is one of the times where it really benefits us to be part of the CCE system. Master packet of policies, we would pay, if all of the counties agreed to it, or a significant number, I don't know, Kevin, maybe you know this number, but if I don't know, if at least 40 of the county associations, of which there are 52 or something, agree to pay in, it would cost us $500. So CCE Essex should get, I mean, that's a pittance.
Yes.
So I think that's a yes. If only 10 CCE associations do, then it would be $1,000.
Do you need a vote on that?
I'm just asking for some direction. I'm authorized to spend that much money, but I want some direction. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I will take that. It's the sense of the meeting.
Elizabeth, I think there's going to be some time as well. This process, as I understand it, is been talked about and just starting, but from what I've been told, the Extension Administration, the university want to take it slow enough that everybody has time to think about it and understand what those changes are. And you're exactly right. It's mainly the HR policies. And those statewide ones would all get viewed as a packet of policies. And then there are a lot of individual ones that are very specific to each association, and those would need to get reviewed separately for each association. Unless the only other option is, and I'm not saying this is a good option, but in the past, there have been associations that partnered and said, well, why don't we do this more collaboratively, and maybe there's some efficiencies here if we have the same vacation policies, the same sick policies. Not saying it's a good or bad idea, it's just it's been done before.
And thank you. It is helpful to have that historical context, and I think I don't want to move backwards. I think that the previous boards of Essex County, CCE Essex have done right by a lot of those policies, and I wouldn't propose changing. There's a couple things I would tweak, but y'all, the boards have adopted all those policies for good reason. So I wouldn't really want to look backwards, but it might not be a bad idea to have some of them be reviewed by a lawyer and tweaked a little bit. But we could look at that later because that's going to be very costly.
Yeah.
So I just, sense of the meeting is yes, go ahead and do it. That's good info. There are some other things I can follow up with by email that I can just send an update on that would probably be better use of time. I do want to say that we have a lot of new staff and we have a bunch of new board members, and I think it would be really great to have a board and staff social event.
Yay.
And I want to do it at the Knock in Westport, and it'll be a pay for yourself because we can't pay for alcohol for you. But you can, it's just a kind of cool new place that's kind of different. Kevin, you can come if you can make it. It's a destination.
Okay.
And we don't have a date yet.
What if it's a mixology class?
Oh, it's education and they use local spirits. And they use local spirits. We can sample
Making
those.
potions.
So,
Kids had me version of that, a
There
birthday
you go.
party there.
so we'll just kind of do a doodle poll or something. I don't know. We'll figure out a time and place. The other thing I want you to know is that I just first off have incredible admiration for this staff. They have stepped up over and over again to fill in again when there's a gap in. And the program, the excellence of the programs around here is just really remarkable. The volume, the quality, the customer service. I mean, honestly, it's really something to be proud of.
Well, I was gonna
And-
say at the staff report that you guys got here, I do a similar one for the Board of Supervisors. That's what we submit to them. And we told the staff last month, like, these reports are getting long. Cut them down to just your top, very, very top stuff. The report got longer. So I pointed out to supervisors, I asked them to do just the top stuff. It came out longer, and that's a real reflection of the sort of programming we're gearing up. We've just been, ever since we hired new staff last summer, it's just been getting up and up.
Plus it's summer coming
Yeah, well,
on
there's that
and all sorts of things are happening.
And it does show to the supervisors see that what we do is important and relevant to other people. It's not the same as what other people do. And so it's something really to be proud of. I want you all to feel that you're part of an organization to be proud of. It's financially as stable as any other organization in the state. The delivery, we are small, but we are mighty. We have under 10 people working here. And this is really a lot of work. So really shout out to them. We are going to do as a staff an offsite program. We're going to go visit the Six Nations Museum in Ontario in the 1st of July, just as a staff outing.
So
And just to do something together, maybe eat some Donley's ice cream, but we have some lactose intolerant people, so we aren't sure yet. But we're gonna go do some an offsite thing, and I just wanted you to know that. And the rest of the things are things that I can follow up later.
Okay.
I think too, Elizabeth, really quick, going back to the staff. Twice in the last, without even knowing that I have any relation to the association. Chad of all people came home the other day from a job and said, I was just at someone's house and they have no idea that we have anything to do with the association, but the woman was talking about Jake. Chad's like, I have no idea who the new 4-H person is, but she was like talking him up highly. He's like, I can't tell you about what, but that he was doing a great job. He's like, everything she was saying didn't make sense to me. I said, well, okay, but but I was like, that's good to know that whoever it was, I had to ask him who it was, thought he was doing a great job. I'm like, how did you start talking about it? He's like, I don't know. I was working and she just started talking about it. But
That's great. It's really great for them to hear that too, especially the young educators that are, Jake is trying to get his master's degree at the same time. He just submitted 4 papers last week. 4, count them. One was 17 pages long. At the same time, he was drafting those 2 proposals that I mentioned. This guy is committed. He is just so committed, and he's so great with kids. they love him. I think you can attest to that.
They do love him, and I think I told you this, or maybe you weren't on the meeting, I don't remember who I told, I told everybody. Our consultant, so every year we hire a consultant, a third-party consultant for the grant. That reviews how our programming's going, how our partnerships are going, are we doing all of the things we're supposed to do, are we exceeding them, going below them, are we being understanding feedback from the community, from our part, you know, the whole thing, right? Trying to understand the big picture. And so part of it is they have to come do a site visit at each campus during active program hours. And they came when Jake was doing the program. And they watched him do an egg drop, and she wrote in there, she was like, I've seen this 1,000 times. She's like, but this was the best one I've ever seen. And then went into detail as to why it was so great and how he explained beyond just an egg drop and like how was an egg created and so on and so forth. And that he was incredibly engaged with the children, and they love him. They like, when I advertise the programs, I write which staff it's with or which Cornell cooperative member it's with or whatever. And the kids, when they see his name, they're like, oh, we want him. We want Jake.
That's great.
When he's not there, they're disappointed. They're like, oh, when's Jake coming back?
That's great. Thank you for sharing that one. Yeah, and I guess I don't know what else you all have to discuss, but this is another example. A bunch of people in the office, I think have contributed to this, including Kate, who we are losing. And it is a really valuable thing that people grab off the shelf. It's the Tri-County Food Guide that includes all the farmers market info, and it says at the bottom who accepts SNAP and FMNT and Fresh Connect and Double Up Food Bucks, which is super valuable. These things are really, really important. And they are partly important because they're correct, they're updated. The information is accurate for 2025, as opposed to being on the shelf from 2023.
That's a lot to update.
That is a lot.
Yeah, the farmers markets, we have Adirondack Harvest on our website, we maintain a page with all the country farmers markets, 60 to 80 of them. And we call every market manager because we can't get the information any other way. And so our information is more up to date than Ag and Markets, was usually 3 or 4 years out of date. So we're the top resource Adirondack Harvest is for really accurate local food information, because we put in the hours to call people and sort it out. And it's hard. These markets, these little markets, they're not quite organized by April when we're trying to go to press. And so we follow up with them. And we work with a lot of the other counties too. That's what Adirondack Harvest does, so that when we need, we have a great contact at CCE Jefferson County to get all their market information, and same with St. Lawrence County. So, but for this is just Tri-County, and we work directly with CC Franklin and Clinton County. I've staff or work with staff members in each of those counties to get this one done.
And Clinton County just picked up their box, and we're super stoked to get them today.
Right.
1,000 for Clinton, Franklin.
Well done.
Yeah, really props to Lori and
And
company.
we work with Studley Printing. They're amazing. I can't say enough nice things about them. They do a great job on this every year.
So thanks all for coming. Do you have more, Trisha?
I don't think so.
Like,
Move to adjourn.
one thing.
Second,
Wait,
The policy issue with the lawyer,
Mhm.
okay? We've had a couple issues with a couple policies here. I think that we should make sure that those are the ones that we concentrate on. Having him take a good look at.
I agree, and I'm gonna bring you back a proposal for each of our local policies, like how many local policies we have by local, meaning the ones that aren't. They're ones that we can change and that may be unique to us, and then get a cost for what it would cost to review an individual policy, because it could be as much as $500 per policy for all I know. So, and then I'll bring that back to you, and then we'll.
As we've talked about ourselves reviewing it and revising it,
Mhm,
the ones that I'm talking about, so.
I do.
I'd say this is a good opportunity to have a professional.
I completely
really
agree.
Scrutinize those things.
I completely agree.
Is there any more motion to adjourn? Was it
Oh, wait.
Danielle did.
Was it
a
Daniel?
second, to adjourn?
It was out of order, though.
Did you get your second?
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed?
The only other thing we need, Daniel, we can do.
I was gonna say, I need Daniel and Mark Hale
$35,000
before you leave.
Oh, do we need to sign a few things.
Oh, right, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned it. You could, there's, if
Alicia,
you
John,
want
thank you
to,
very much. for
yes.
coming.
You bet.
It's good to see you.
There
Yeah.
are
Thanks for accepting
four,
this.
I believe, 4 forms that you can fill out tonight or fill out, mail them back or bring them the next time.
I'll meet you up front.
And John, both you and Alicia. Okay,
So it would be, not to put more work on your plate, but it'd be great to get a reminder exactly what you need.
they're right in there and you can take them or I can even email them to you.
Oh, no,
Okay.
There's,
is it,
There's two of them or 3 of them?
Let's see, there's
they
the,
were right at the
they're
top.
right.
There's the ethics, the conflict of interest,
Yeah.
confidentiality. And your volunteer.
ethics
Okay.
is a volunteer sort of.
But everywhere there's a place for a signature. Okay.
you can take that with you if you want,
Normally it stays here.
only because people forget to bring them.
Hmm.
So if you,
Well-
if you want to take it, it's yours to take.
I'm gonna take it because, and then just so I can review stuff.
Sure,
in
I
the
would like to
future.
do the same.
sure.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
What is the confidential and voluntary form?
This is a
Is it-
conflict of interest, I think. Wait, oh, we had to
It's
fix
in
that.
addition to
I
conflict of
forget, I have
interest.
to, I haven't seen this for a while.
Is that just like holding whatever happens within board meetings and otherwise?
I think we need
confidence?
to ask, Lori, this has all this DEI language on it, diversity
Right.
survey.
Yeah, we may need to.
Well, you can't update this until you have updated the policy.
Elizabeth, do you need Kevin on?
No, thanks, Kevin. Do you need me? We're
No,
adjourned.
but
What?
He has something to
Do you have
add.
something to add?
are you talking to me, Elizabeth?
Yes,
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention to you, sometime we need to set up a reoccurring call. So I'll follow up and we'll do that sometime. And I
Great.
wanted to let Trisha know that I'll be reaching out to her because part of one of my duties, so she knows, is providing any resources and assistance to the board leadership as well.
All right. Sounds
So
good.
I'll send an email out to you and do it that way, because I know
All
it's
right.
late. All right?
Okay.
sorry,
So,
we sort of skirted right by you there, Kevin. Sorry about
No,
that.
you're
Thank
good.
you for,
You're
thank you
good.
for
You covered a
coming.
lot of territory tonight.
We did.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
sounds good.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
After signing these, is it possible to get copies of these policies
Sure.
or statements?
Sure.
Just so, because it's nice to